アメリカってみんな英語ペラペラで本もスラスラ読める国って思っていませんか？でも実は大人の何千万人もが簡単な文章すら読めないと言われています。今日はその知られざる現実を見ていきましょう。
Whenever people are like, I can't believe the literacy rates are as high as they are. I can. I'm a server. You guys can't read the word carrot. There's nothing else to say. Like, that's it. It's astounding. And the population that cannot read, like, it already existed before this younger generation was struggling with reading. Let me emphasize that. And so it's just becoming a more pervasive problem. It's very real. I see it every day. Like, people really, they can't read. They cannot read their first language that they speak. It's crazy.
Did you know that over 43 million American adults are illiterate? That's nearly 1 in 5 adults who can't fully understand everyday information and struggle with reading simple sentences. They can't easily fill out a job application, follow health instructions, or even help with their kids' schoolwork. But the shock doesn't just stop there. 54% of adults in America are missing the reading skills needed to reach their full potential in today's fast-paced, information-driven world. In a country that celebrates freedom of information, we're quietly leaving behind millions of Americans. Literacy is about more than reading words. It's about using written information to understand, make informed decisions, critically think, and engage with the world. Imagine struggling to read a news article, or struggling to understand the label in your prescription, or even struggling to compare prices in a store. For over 20% of American adults, this is the stark reality. Are you wondering how the U.S. literacy rate compares with other countries? The U.S. literacy rate is lower than many other developed countries. For example, Finland, Japan, and South Korea had literacy rates close to 100%, while the U.S. has about 79% of adults with adequate literacy skills. Even in poor countries like Cuba, the U.S. literacy rate doesn't even compare. While the U.S. has millions of adults struggling with basic literacy, Cuba boasts one of the highest literacy rates in the world, often reported at nearly 100%. This impressive rate is due to Cuba's strong focus on education, which includes nationwide literacy campaigns and free access to education for all Cuban citizens. The stark difference raises questions about the effectiveness of the U.S. education system and its commitment to universal literacy. Now, the literacy crisis has deep roots. We could blame it on George Bush and say that children got left behind, but honestly, this crisis has been going on for decades. Yet, as literacy rates continue to fall, another surprising threat looms: book bans. In Florida alone, hundreds of books have been removed from school libraries this year. These bans, often labeled as protective, limit students' access to a broad range of ideas and stories. How can we expect children to become strong, curious readers if we're shrinking the pool of stories that they can explore? When kids lose access to books that reflect different cultures or experiences and viewpoints, they're robbed of empathy and critical thinking skills, the very tools needed to navigate a diverse world. To tackle America's literacy crisis, we gotta work together. Schools need better resources, communities should support adult literacy programs, and book censorship needs to end. Reading should be about exploring ideas, not restricting them. Parents and educators also play a vital role by encouraging reading at home, visiting libraries, and discussing books, helping children build essential skills for success. Book bans and failing literacy rates raise a bigger question for America's future. Are we building a society where everyone has the opportunity to grow, or are we quietly creating a system that shuts out millions from a world of information? Literacy isn't just about words, it's about opening doors, and if we keep closing them, who will be left in the dark?
Hey y'all, this is just your friendly FYI that 50% of the country can't read past the 6th grade reading level. And that's why my post when I say, y'all need to read books, I'm not fucking joking. Half of y'all couldn't get past Harry Potter and understand what's happening in the book because the reading comprehension skills do not exist because 50% of y'all can't read past the 6th grade level. Let that sink in. That's why we're in this situation. Y'all need to pick up more books. I'm telling you, you need to read books.
All you teachers screaming about, the kids can't read, the kids can't read. Did you stop to think that maybe their parents can't either? If I told you parent and adult illiteracy rates in this country were skyrocketing through the roof, how would you feel then with your judgy, self-righteous selves? As of 2022, only 21% of adults in the United States are illiterate. 54% of those have a literacy rate below the 6th grade level, meaning if they were in my 4th or 5th grade class, they might be struggling. That's what level the parents are on. Not all, but some. 55% of American adults under 30 cannot read, and it's specifically because our schools refuse to teach them and have effectively not been doing so For a while, as I've said in many of my videos, our failure is not on accident, it's by design. So the kids can't read and they're struggling. You blame the parents. Horrible, horrible parents at home. But the parents are struggling also. Approximately 32 million adults in the United States cannot read, according to the U.S. Department of Education and the National Institute of Literacy. Low rates of literacy cost the United States up to $2.2 trillion per year. 130 million Americans, nearly a quarter of the Americans in this country, have low literacy rates of reading and low literacy skills, and read below a 6th grade level. Look at some data averages by state. Take a look at the colors. The lighter colors are at risk, the darker colors are proficient. Minnesota and New Hampshire have the highest literacy scores of any state at 279. On the other hand, states like Louisiana, Mississippi, and New Mexico have the lowest average scores at 252. New York is also very low, as is New Jersey, Texas, Florida, and California. Kids can't read and the kids are struggling, and of course, you blame the parents. The parents can't read and they're struggling too. Story time. I usually teach all the siblings and cousins in one family in my classroom, and one year I had all the brothers and all the sisters in this one family. Kids were very low and struggling. I gave them intervention, small group. They left the room with another teacher. I spoke to last year's teacher. I didn't know what to do. Come to find out, Mom couldn't read either. Didn't want her kids to be screened for SPED because of the shame she felt.
I teach at a college currently, and I've seen a bunch of posts today about the average reading level of America, and I'd like to talk about this. This is not a political right-left thing. This is just a fact of the American education system and what I see teaching adults who have graduated from high school. We can't get them to understand basic math, and they do not know how to read basic questions, basic concepts. Obviously, I'm not talking about everybody in the world, but I am saying that I do see a large populations of students at the school that I teach at that struggle with this. It is not their fault. They have graduated from high school. They have a high school diploma that says that they've met all these benchmarks, and it's not there. We had a faculty meeting last week that had a bunch of the programs at the campus that I'm at. I teach in the nursing program, obviously, but there's several other associate's degrees and diploma programs. So diploma programs are a little bit different than like most traditional college programs where you have pretty high benchmarks and requirements to get in. Diploma programs are a little bit different. You have to have graduated high school. They do like background checks and drug screens. But you don't really need grades to prove. You just need a diploma. So you've passed high school, and that's the benchmark. I had, 20 departments there. 6 or 7 of them were had a fight, a really true argument in this meeting with admissions and the director of our campus over whether or not they could institute some kind of intelligence test. And one person in particular was very frustrated and was saying that they needed some way to determine that students could read, just basically read, which apparently is not allowed in the diploma program side. In the nursing side, we take something called the TEAS test, which is a very basic math and science and reading test, but you only need a 42% to pass for our program. Some programs have much higher benchmarks, but we serve a specific population. Our population is what they call a second chance school, so it's people that probably would not make the benchmarks for a state school, and certainly probably not a private university. But it is not a joke that we have students that truly struggle to read basic questions, to read paragraphs, obviously we want them to understand the concepts, and that comes later, but they need to know the words and be able to read it first, and they're struggling to read the questions and understand what a question is asking. So forget about what you do next. It's a hurdle. and we teach med math, obviously. Math is a huge part of nursing. We are working with students who are adults, again, that have graduated high school, that are awesome people. I have awesome students that are trying really, really hard that have not learned when you multiply and when you divide. They're reading a question. They understand the pieces of the question. We have, 500 milliliters. We need to know how many milliliters were given an hour in 12 hours. Well, what do I do with those numbers? And they don't understand that, okay, well, we need to divide by 12 to get, how it was for 12 hours. And
文字が読めないということは、日常生活に出会う文章を見ても、自分一人ではちゃんと理解できないということです。アメリカでは、そんな大人が何千万人も取り残されています。それは仕事のチャンスだけじゃなく、健康や人生の選択肢まで狭めてしまう深刻な問題です。日本だと識字率は 100% と言われているので考えられないかもしれませんが、世界の大国アメリカではこんな現実があります。あなたはこの問題をどう思いますか？感想をコメントいただけると幸いです。最後までご覧いただきありがとうございました。